All right, so you pick up your camera and it's focusing on everything except what you want. If you have that problem, then watch this video as I give you the tools to properly focus so you can leave the blur in the background. What's good, creatives? My name is Devney, the creative whore, but y'all can call me Dev for short. I'm currently a student at the Los Angeles Film School working on my BA in digital film. Welcome to my channel where I teach you what I learned in school so your ass ain't gotta go. So my goal is to cover everything you need to know about cinematography in order from A to Z in the simplest way possible. Before we get into it, my last video was all about the exposure triangle. So if you missed it, go back and check it out because I'm going to build on some of those elements going forward. Okay, creatives, so today we're going to dive into focus. And despite what you may think, focusing is not just about twisting the ring and hoping for the best. So let's really get into it. First things first, what is focus? So in cinematography, focus simply means making sure that the parts of a scene that you want viewers to notice are sharp and clear while everything else can be blurred or soft. Focus is extremely important because it directs the viewer's eye to the most important parts of the shot, helping to tell the story visually. So this sounds pretty simple, but there's a tricky part. And that is adjusting the exposure with the aperture affects how much of the frame is in focus, aka your depth of field. But before you just go and change your focus on a lens, you first need to understand a couple of things that factor into focus. Those things are plane of focus, focus distance, minimum focus distance, focal length, and the focus ring. Don't worry, I got y'all. So up first, plane of focus, or POF, is an invisible two-dimensional area in front of the camera that runs parallel to the camera sensor. So think of the plane of focus like a flashlight beam when it's dark. When you aim the flashlight at a specific shot, only the area within that light is clearly visible, while everything outside of it fades to darkness. POF is similar in a way that anything within that two-dimensional plane will be in focus, while the things that are in front of it or behind it will appear out of focus. All right, now that we got that out of the way, the next thing is focus distance. So all this is the distance between the camera and the subject at which the image is at its sharpest. So the closer the camera is to the subject it's focusing on, the more narrow the depth of field would be, and vice versa. The distance is typically set by physically measuring the space between the camera and the subject, but focal length and aperture need to be taken into consideration. But don't worry about that. We're going to keep it simple today. We'll cover that in a later video. Next up is focal length. Focal length, or lens size, measured in millimeters, simply determines how much of a scene is in frame, or the field of view. The shorter the focal length, like a 12mm lens, the wider the field of view, capturing wide shots even when you're somewhat close to the subject. These would be considered your wide-angle lenses. The longer the focal length, like your 85mm lenses, the more narrow your field of view is, zooming in to capture only a part of the scene, even when the camera is far from the subject. These will be considered your telephoto lenses. Another factor to consider is minimum focus distance. This is the closest you can get your camera to a subject before it becomes out of focus. Each lens has a specific minimum focus distance, which is usually around 1 to 2 feet. So if you're struggling to get that focus on a close-up of your subject, double check that minimum focus distance on the lens. That's probably your issue. Lastly, and probably the most simple, is the focus ring. So the focus ring is a physical ring on the lens that controls the elements inside the lens that gives you manual control over the focus. This is typically what people go to first to adjust their focus, but depending on what you're trying to capture, adjusting it may not work until you either switch one of the lenses or even how far or close you are to the subject. All right, y'all, so although that was simple, it was a lot to digest. So let's bring it all together. When you're dialing in that sharp focus, remember, it's a balancing act between all of these elements. The plane of focus is your target area for clarity. Focus distance and the focus ring helps you dial in that sharp focus exactly where you want it. Depth of field controls how much of the shot around your subject will be sharp or blurry. Focal length affects how much of the background is in focus. And then the minimum focus distance tells you how close you can get to a subject while you're maintaining perfect focus. Once you understand this and you're able to balance all of these elements, I promise you, you will have cinematic focus every shot. With that being said, I hope you learned something new. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more cinematic content. Remember, creatives, don't overthink it, just shoot it, because the world needs to see your art. And that's a wrap.